Since we got to pick our evaluate tours, it's quite an odd that this person is somebody outside.
I want to thank you all for coming. It's great to see everyone. I'm now Dr. Lopez. She is in Ghana with a select group of faculty attending a conference, a wonderful conference over on the continent of Africa. So, me and Sheila, we're going to hold it down with your help. We'll get some work done. So, first on the agenda, we want to do the land acknowledgement and honor those who have made it possible for us to do what we do. Before we begin, I believe it's important to open our meeting by acknowledging the indigenous land that we share. Pasadena City College is a learning community within the indigenous homelands of people who have been known as the Gabrielindo Band of Mission Indians of the Shishikwanga Village and Quiche Nation. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this land in which we gather. We honor all indigenous people, past, present, and future, and their continued survival and contributions to our society. We also honor the legacy of the African American diaspora and recognize that this country would not exist without the free enslaved labor of Black people. We share these acknowledgments to raise awareness about the histories that are too often erased or forgotten, to recognize our place in this history, and to affirm our commitment to social justice, systemic change, and anti-racism.
Armia, can I make a motion to revise the agenda?
Yes, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had 2 last-minute changes that came up after the agenda was sent out. One of them is H2, use of district vehicles for a second read. We realized that we actually passed that back in April. That long summer was not conducive to remembering what we did previously. And the other one is that we received late notice that Jude Socrates, under J1 committee appointments, that he is actually nominated for the chair, the faculty chair of the Institutional Effectiveness Committee, not as a member.
He's a co-chair.
Yes, faculty co-chair.
Thank you. And who seconded? Was that you, Talim?
Yeah, I'll take it.
I thought I saw you. So moved by Sheila Rose and seconded by Talim Seropian. Okay, thank you for that. Next we
I
will.
think it needs to be approved.
Oh, sorry. Approved? Who wants to approve?
Are there any,
Yeah.
the ayes, the nays?
Are there any ayes, any nays, disapprovals? Okay, then it was moved by unanimous consent. Thank you very much. All right, next we have approval of the minutes. I'm sorry, public comment. We do have one so far. If there are more, please let us know. Are there any other? Danielle, you have one?
I too.
No, I can't see her.
Sorry.
Tracy? Okay, Tracy. So we're gonna have you make your public comment in the order that we received. And we also have one online as well.
Yeah, so just checking Gabriel Ramirez. Is Gabriel Ramirez present? Okay, if not, I'm going to read his public comment. So, good afternoon, Pasadena City College Academic Senate board members and community members and audience. My name is Gabriel Ramirez. I am an elected California Democratic Party delegate and alternate for Los Angeles County Democratic Central Committee Delegate AD 49, and a constituent in the Pasadena City College Area 6. For agenda item AP 3300 Public Records Act, it is my understanding the context and language of the proposal to the board is very concerning, that the board is charging for electronic format public records request. In other government agencies and municipalities, majority of electronic format public records do not charge. From my experience that I have requested public records electronic format, my public records that I have requested, either it has been delayed or I received a response with a billing to pay a fee just for electronic format public records. It is illegal to charge an arbitrary hourly fee to the public for staff to provide public documents, but you can charge for paper copies if no electricity documents are available. Working in a public institution is part of the job of staff to be transparent and should not be used as a deterrent. For an example, $50 an hour to the public from getting information that is legally available to them anyway. I humbly ask the Faculty Senate to revise the policy of public records to reflect this. Thank you. Oh, okay, Danielle.
I just wanted to share, we have an upcoming event going on here in the quad on October 4th. We're inviting poet Jessica Salgado. It is one of our lead events for the Latino, Latinx Heritage Month, and it is sponsored by our Hispanic Serving Institution, Abriendo Caminos Grant, the Library and Division of Institutional Equity, Diversity, and Justice. And Jessica Salgado is a local poet. She writes poetry about her family, her culture, her city, and her fat body. She is recognized internationally as a body positive advocate, And she is also having her work featured in New York Times, LA Times, Teen Vogue, Univision, CNN, and NPR. We will be offering opportunity for students who attend to get proof of attendance, and we encourage faculty to please share this out with your students, and we will send something to Academic Senate that they can send to you that you can post in your campus shells. And some division deans have also already shared this out, so you can look out for their email as well. Additionally, the HSI grant has paid for bookmarks that we are giving out in the library, and I will put some in the back if anyone would like some. There are 8 different bookmarks, but I just brought one today. We are also hosting Latinos in Pasadena timeline, so it is on display in the library if you would like to come by and visit our display, where students can take a look at local Latino history in Pasadena. So thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay.
I just want to share with everybody, there's some words that are coming up in the emails, on agendas, on things that we're doing, and I want to remind us, I guess, what the meaning of these things are. Let me start with equity. Equity means making up for past discrimination with current discrimination. An equitable system. Certain individuals and groups must be discriminated against in order to make up for discrimination that other individuals and groups suffered in the past. Equity and equality do not mean the same thing. They're opposites. Example, equitable employment. Qualifications no longer use merit or ability, but a person might be judged on their sex, sexual orientation, or race. Social justice. It destroys freedom of speech. We are supposed to be able to have cognitive liberty and the ability to communicate honestly, freedom to think and pursue truth. So what is it? Social justice. It refers to reconstructing society in accordance with principles of equity and inclusion. Diversity and social justice are inextricably bound together. Social justice advocates use methods that silence all opinions, but those according to their own dogma. They intimidate and they suppress those that question their orthodoxy. I'm just seeing these words in our agenda, and I'm concerned about it. I feel that social justice can punish diverse views and limit the freedom of ideas and individual expression. So I conclude I cannot support any doctrines that we have, i.e. equity, that persecutes or punishes someone because of their race, and the tenets of social justice that are aimed to help some, but deny others, right? So in America, we pride ourselves on freedom, liberty, and justice for all. I'm a multi-ethnic person. I'm Black, and I'm white, and I'm American Indian. So I really hope that everything that we do supports all people of all races. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Audrey, I'm sorry, did you ask for public comment or to announce at the end?
Armia just said I could say during my report. Is that okay?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any more public comment? Okay, next we have our reports from our constituency. Oh, I'm sorry. We have our approval of minutes. You should have all received them. Is there anything needs to be added? Yes.
I'd just like to add that I was there, Shannon Merrigy last time, and Catherine Chang was there last time as well, just to be added as attending. But I know we're new, so nobody knew who we were, so.
We know who you are. Thank you. So, I would like a motion to approve the minutes, if there's nothing else. Thank you, Russell. Sorry, glasses. All right, thank you, Russell. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, Carmen. Okay, awesome. Yes.
Just a question, so then will the minutes that we approved now include the changes that
Yes.
Shannon, okay.
Yes, they will. Any objections? Okay, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Thank you for that. All right, next, we have our constituency reports. Do we have anyone from PCCFA?
Yes.
I thought I saw you. Hi. All right.
Hi all. Long time no be here. It's good to be back. Just a short update. This Tuesday we will be hosting a Q&A session with the FA at noon on Zoom, and then on Thursday there will and the Q&A is open to all faculty. On Thursday there will be a general membership meeting, also at noon. That's the 27th and 29th respectively. A little bit of an update on negotiations. We have been negotiating. I'm sure you've seen the updates. It's going very slowly. We finally did receive a salary offer from the district in the last negotiating session. And it's not good, but we'll just keep plugging along. We've also been pressing them on our part-time benefits proposal, which we put out there in early June. And they still have not answered it other than to say that they're waiting for state guidance. Let's see, so most of the negotiating has been around working conditions. There's quite a few things that they would like to take away from us that we are holding firm on. And if you want to see any of the proposals, and they're very interesting reading, you can see what they propose, what we propose, what they counter propose. You can see any of those if you go to the Human Resources website, click on unions, and click on contracts, and that will open up all of the history of the negotiating sessions that we've been to. For some reason, they don't have the September 15th session that we just concluded not too long ago, but they do have the most recent session, which was last Thursday. I was not at that session, so I am going to throw it to Bevel to see if he has any updates, because he was at that session. Maybe he can have any updates.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Yes, as the part-time FA rep, I've been learning a lot about not just negotiations, but I guess the educational system in which we all operate. From the adjunct faculty perspective, we have put some very strong proposals on the table to the district. We were also disappointed with the proposal that was sent based on the salary for adjunct faculty. As you all may know, we are continuing to work in the direction of parity, pay parity for adjunct faculty. So it's something that we're really concerned about, and we are doing everything in our power, at least on the FA side, to put a strong proposal on the table. So we are still hopeful that the district is ready to now give the adjunct faculty the things that we deserve for so long. So we are trying to maintain a positive approach and professional approach with the district, and we think that this is the best method forward. And again, if any adjunct faculty member or full-time faculty member has any questions or concerns, you can direct them to us, and we will always put our best foot forward in terms of the process. So I look forward to the next round of negotiations. Again, representing adjunct faculty, as you all know, to the best of my ability. Thank you.
And we will be back in negotiations on October 6th, the next session.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Good. Awesome. Thank you. We need now a report from adjunct faculty.
There's nothing to report this meeting.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, we have classified Senate.
Hi. The new classified hiring policy, AP 7230, was created, drafted, and recently approved by the Classified Senate. We're happy with those modifications. We're looking forward to the NAC survey coming out, which is the National Assessment of Collegiate Campus Climates. We're working to ensure that the most participation from classified members, especially those in the area of facilities. We're excited to work with the Academic Senate this year through the shared governance model. And just one announcement, if you haven't heard, this weekend, Saturday, October 1st from 2 to 7, PCC is hosting an outreach event entitled the Black Family Reunion. And this is for us to really be present and welcoming for our African American students in the community and the surrounding areas. We're going to have a resource fair. We're bringing Black businesses onto campus. And we'll also have food, entertainment, and games. It's going to be a family event, and everyone is welcome. Thank you.
Next we have Associated Students.
Hi everyone, my name is Hanan. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs for Associated Students. This Friday, we're hosting a movie night. The movie is Stand and Deliver. Sorry. So we'll be highlighting like Chicano academia. And so that's this Friday at 5 p.m. And then besides that, we have student trustee elections coming soon. It's this Wednesday and Thursday.
Next we have Administration and Management Association. No one from the Management Association? Okay, well, thank you. Next, we have the Academic Senate Officers Report. We do not have a President report. Again, because Dr. Lopez is out. So that takes you to my report, Vice President. The only thing I would like to share is kind of what I mentioned during our last meeting. We are going to be doing some more work with committees. You may be called on to share out what's happening in your committees so we can be able to support your efforts and to know what's happening. And with that, I hand it over to our serving secretary / treasurer.
Excuse me?
Sheila, yes.
Sorry, could I ask you a question about what you just, with the committees, especially because I'm new here, and I took a look online at the list of committees, and I know it's not updated on the website. Could we possibly see like a list of who's on which committees and who the chairs are and how many open spots there are? And is there a maximum number of members for each committee or?
Yes, so we're working on that currently, especially because some of the areas, there's been a lot of changes in different areas. So yes, we will update it hopefully by next meeting.
And sorry if I may just, like if I wanted to be on a committee, what's the process? Just fill out the form to volunteer online and then would I hear from somebody about?
Yeah, just like on our agenda, we have people that have volunteered. So the process is you do the form, and then I would receive it, and then I would contact the chair of that committee to see if they're accepting members or, if they're full, and then I would follow their lead, and if it's okay, if everything's okay, then you would be added as a consent item on the agenda, like the people that are on there today, they went through that process.
One last question, any idea like when we could expect a list of like updated and how many spots are open on what committees and who the chairs are?
Yeah, we can work, that's something we can work on, as far as like how many seats and all of that. Yeah, we would have to reach out to the committee chair. It depends on the committee.
Do you think maybe by the next academic senate meeting we can have that information?
Yeah, we can shoot for that. We can shoot for that. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
About whether or not a committee is full, where does it say what the maximum number of members are per committee?
Yeah, address that. So currently, the only Senate committee that has a defined membership per our bylaws is curriculum and instruction. So historically, the number of people serving on other academic senate committees has been determined by the chair, but it's not anywhere in our bylaws. So we have historically just reached out to the chair and asked if they are in need of additional members.
Can I request that that be done in this whole process before there's a need? Like, maybe ask the chair before there are openings, you know, what is the number that you want? Otherwise, someone might want to volunteer for a committee and we don't know what the prescribed number is ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's tricky too because it's fluid. Some people leave, some people stay, so the numbers change a lot. That's why we rely on the chair to, but I hear what you're saying. It'd be nice to know what their number is. Is that what you were hoping?
Yeah, to make it transparent and just so it's all on the table and when it's full, it's full. And when it's empty.
Back to Secretary/Treasurer.
Okay, let's see. This, what I'm seeing is not showing up here.
We gotta unfreeze it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So just to read our balances into the record, so we have an increase in our business savings of $61 and a decrease in our checking account of $177.85. So a total deficit for the month, or since the last 2 weeks, of $116.85, and our current total balance is $20,120.08. At our first Senate meeting, I went over the amount of money that had been spent over our very long extended break and didn't have all those numbers in my head, so I have compiled them all here. Probably the biggest item that I omitted in my report last time was the Senate scholarship reception. So we had our first in-person scholarship in the last 3 years, right? In April of 2022, and we had very excellent attendance with family members to celebrate, and so we had rather a large expenditure of $1,833.50 for meals, linens, things like that. I had mentioned last time in my report that we also had spent money on some technology for transcription, so we can see those 3 items here: the software, the foot pedal, and the maintenance agreement. And then also we have here the Senate retreat. So total expenditures from our last board meeting in spring until our first board meeting of fall were $3,832.96. That concludes my report.
Okay. Next we have information items. Dr. Cynthia Olivo.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to let you all know we have a new mental health hotline that's available after hours. And we will be placing these posters in every classroom. We just got them today. So tomorrow I meet with my student services management and leadership team, and we will create a plan to walk to every classroom and put them up. So if anyone wants to join us, you'll get good steps. This Saturday, we did do a 5K with Homeboy Industries for our formerly incarcerated program, and we had 100 people on our team. I also participated. It was fun. So if you want to help put these up, let me know. But let me tell you a little bit about our after-hours mental health crisis hotline. You would simply have the students call the personal counseling department at 626-585-7273, and they press number 9, and they'll be connected to a clinician. We also placed on here the new National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So you know how many people call 911 when there's an emergency? Now for suicide and crisis, you dial 988. So we'll be placing these in all classrooms. And I wanted to let you know this resulted from a faculty member last year who referred a student to me via email. And, she may have sent the email around 9 o'clock at night, and I didn't see it till the next day. And so I thought, wow, this could be a huge crisis. And so we were able to utilize our federal CARES institutional funds to purchase this infrastructure. And then we have mental health grant funds to continue to pay the annual fee. So I really would encourage you to please make sure you let students know after hours we do have support if they are in a crisis. And as usual, just thank you faculty members for referring students who do need help. Last week, we were able to place another student who was homeless in a short-term facility while he's waiting for his long-term housing facility to be prepared. It's all because of you. You're paying attention, making yourselves available, and referring our students to Lancer Care. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Olivo. Question? Oh, thank you.
My question is, will you be getting those posters over to the non-credit buildings at Rosemead as well?
Yes, and Muir. Yep. Yes?
When you say after hours, does that mean all night, all day, 24 hours?
It is 24 hours, but we prefer students when they call this number, if it's 8 to 4:30, they'll get assistance from our staff. If it's after 4:30, then it's the operator connecting them to a clinician. Great questions.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Is there an image that you could share with us that we could post for our online students, or do you think we should just take a picture and do that?
Oh, that's a great idea. I can have the PDF of this emailed to all of you through the Senate.
Thank you.
Mhm.
May we also get some for the library, please?
Yes, I ordered extra for the library. I said any room where there's students in it, including classrooms, centers, yep. We have enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olivo. Next, we have instructional update by Dr. Laura Ramirez.
Good afternoon, everyone. So just a little update. Last meeting, there was a data request on our faculty demographics of our newly hired faculty, and I forwarded that to your president and vice president so they may distribute it or share it here, as well as our student demographics based on modalities. So So you can look at the data. If you have any questions, please do reach out. But you'll distribute as well, so you can look at it a little bit clearer.
I know, let me see. I can't read it. I
think I could. No, I don't think I could when I was in my 20s.
You probably have to download it.
Thank you.
The ones in the output.
So again, that's our demographic data for the faculty that were hired for fall 22, as well as student enrollment based by modality.
Can that be sent to us?
Yes, it'll be distributed.
Yes, I forwarded it to Judy and she's gonna send it.
Okay, she already sent it.
Oh,
It's in our inbox already.
oh, wow. That was
Yeah.
so fast.
That was fast, thank you. Okay, just a few other updates. I haven't received any hiring requests for faculty, so please don't forget, we want to get as many applications as possible. Our exam proctoring services are expanding, we're expanding our hours. So if you go on the website, you'll see the hours increase over the next couple of weeks. So if you need access to that, definitely visit the Student Success Center. And then also we're working under the leadership of Dr. Young on a military articulation process to allow our veterans to get credit for their work experience. For some of our courses here, there's a platform that's going to roll out in October. As we get closer to that date, you'll get more information as well. Okay? Any questions?
Yes, Bevel.
Hi.
Just wanted to ask, based on some of the data that you were showing us today, and I thank you for the information, are there any discussions that happen at the upper level in terms of management, in terms of the district, based on the data that you have, with the goal of, getting our campus to be as diverse in terms of ethnicity as possible?
Are you talking about the faculty ranks? Or what data, what data are you referring to?
In terms of the breakdown of ethnicity with the new hires.
Right, so amongst our faculty ranks, so that is something that we look at regularly, yes. That is one of the goals, is when we reach out, when we do our information or our announcements for jobs, we try to make sure that it is clear that we are a diverse community and we're looking to diversify our faculty, yes.
And in addition to some of this, is it also possible to get an idea of the 22 full-time faculty that were hired, how many of them were PCC adjuncts? Do you have that information?
We probably could get that information. I don't know for sure, but I don't see why not. Probably take a little bit of time.
And are there any conversations about ensuring that the adjuncts at PCC have I know everyone has a fair opportunity with the process, but it's often difficult for an adjunct to work at an institution for a number of years, and then they feel like they're not getting the opportunity to be part of the campus full-time.
So I think it's important to note as well that when I participate in the final faculty interviews, I only see 2 or 3 that actually get forwarded and recommended to the president, right? I don't see the entire pool. So that's at the faculty committee level step, where the faculty committee, which is primarily faculty, go over all the applications, they look at qualifications, they look at work experience, they're, I'm sure, looking at the demographics of who they're servicing and what's in their departments now. And they're the ones that screen through the applications, they're the ones that design the questions for interview, they're the ones, I'm sure all of you participated in the interview process are full-time faculty. So what we see at the last step is what is recommended to us, and we've made it clear that whoever gets recommended, any one of those is qualified equally, and we're trying to see who's the best fit for the institution. So that's the process.
That's time. If there's a motion to extend time, we need a motion.
Motion to extend.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. A second? Thank you. Mariah. Thank you, glasses. By how many minutes?
5 minutes?
5?
And I have a question. Like when I'm done with that conversation.
Any objections? Okay. 5 minutes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Melissa had a question.
Can I request that in the future, when we get information, that it get sent to us ahead of time, not only sent to us, but put on the board docs for the public to see? Since this is a continuation of what we were talking about last week, and the public had been privy to this, now the public hasn't been able to see this, or at least prior to this meeting, they didn't know this was coming up, so they're not even able to talk about it. So in the future, can we get this ahead of time, number one? And number two, I'm asking our Senate execs, could you please add these documents to the minutes for today, like as a link, so somehow it's accessible and not just sitting in our own mailboxes, because this is public information.
So, answer it out.
Sure. I sent her the information today. I sent the information this morning, so yeah.
Maybe we could link it up to today's minutes somehow.
It'll be on the minutes that will be approved to go out next time.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question, just to piggyback on what Mr. Constantine was talking about, and you were explaining to us that by the time those candidates make it to you, they screen down from a large pool. Is there anything on our books where adjuncts will actually get an opportunity at least to interview for a position that they're qualified to interview for? because I can say from personal experience, I applied for a position I was very well qualified for. I have an amazing history with the college, and I didn't get called for an interview, and I knew it was political. So to avoid those things in the future for other people trying to move forward, you know, in their careers here at TCC, is there something in place to, you know, kind of stop the politics, so to speak?
So as far as I know, there is nothing in our APs or our policies procedures that say an adjunct, current adjunct faculty must get an interview. That's not written anywhere.
Any advice or instruction?
So
or anything
the
that can
faculty
help?
hiring process,
Yeah.
that piece is shepherded by the faculty, so any recommendations need to come from the faculty leadership.
I guess that would go back to having adjuncts also on hiring committees, so it's not just full-time people in those positions. That, I think that would be something that would be positive for everyone.
So it's the instructional service update right now, so it's not the time to talk about it, but as the former adjunct faculty coordinator, I'm happy to speak to you about that.
Thank you.
Tracy.
Thank
Yes.
you.
If you get another question over here.
Oh, I was just gonna say, having been on hiring committees, the number of applications that one gets would make it impossible to hire anyone if you interviewed all of the candidates. You can't perform 160 interviews.
Okay, any other questions?
Hi, I have a question, going back to when you mentioned the resources and the credit for veterans, for their students. I just wanted to ask, I know you said we would get it in October. I just wanted to ask, will we get it internally first? Because as a counselor,
Yes.
it's really good to have that information before everybody gets it and then people start asking questions and you haven't even checked your email yet.
Absolutely. So the model that we are a part of is actually shepherded throughout the state by Norco College, and they have a very robust military articulation process. There's a software, there's a platform where students may submit documentation of what their role, what their rank was in the military, and then we have classes that are linked directly to it. So one of the most common ones would be like an EMT, somebody that served as an EMT in the Marines and the Navy. If they were to come here, they should have some credit for the work that they did, the training they received. So that's the process. The goal is to move that into students for credit for prior learning, for CPL, students that are not part of the military. But this is our first step. So yes, the first thing that's going to happen, counselors need to be well informed of what it looks like, our Veterans Center. Director Calandra has been working very closely as well with this. It's something I'm really excited to bring to PCC. I think we're going to be able to service a lot more students and our veterans.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you so much. And then my last part to that is just if we can also maybe get a Q&A part where it lets us know of any drawbacks for our students. So you know how sometimes when new stuff comes out, something's taken away, or you know there's an exchange, like you don't get credit here because you get credit there. If we can have any guidance on that part, that we would know that's already going to happen, or if they can review that while they make this policy.
Thank you, that's a great recommendation. I'll take it back. I'll take it back to that group.
And with that, we have time unless someone needs an extension.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we have old business to take care of. We have Carol Curtis here. Is Carol Curtis? No. Hi, Carol. Here for a third read of AP 3050. Yeah. Is it up?
I didn't bring anything to pull up.
Okay. Do we need one? I'll let you go ahead and.
I did get some feedback from Talene, and I incorporated what she had said. And there was another comment, and that was emailed me. I did receive something from Danielle too late. I don't know if she wants to bring that up for discussion.
So I'd ask for a motion to approve AP 3050. see your hand, Russell. Is there a second? Thank you, Ling. Any objections?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Discussion.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Now we'll open up for discussion. Yes, whose hand was first? Oh, it's
I
a
just have a
race.
question.
Okay.
When we got the updates, everything that was changed was in red, is that correct?
Or strike through.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
So I sent this out the very next day, and then I sent out a reminder last Thursday when we got our agenda, and that's when I had some comments from faculty in my area. So I'm sharing this on behalf of those faculty, so these are not my comments. So there was some concern about the wording of the document, or the AP rather, due to, in part, it looks like page 2, I'll start with page 1, that was a really simple one. So
If I can pull up my email and I can pull it up for you.
Okay, so there was just a word revision recommending preceding rather than proceeding.
Which is an easy fix.
Yeah, that's a quick one. So for page 2 is kind of where it gets a little deeper. So ethical responsibilities to students, item F states, quote, avoid any exploitation, harassment, or discriminatory treatment of students since students are entitled to an atmosphere conducive to learning, end quote. This person comment states, I feel this could be shortened to avoid any avoid any exploitation, harassment, or discriminatory treatment of students, end quote. There are many reasons to avoid these things. This is their comment, and I don't think that we need to qualify it with the second part of the way the sentence is written. And also that the words objectivity, and objective, wow, that hurt my dyslexia, stood out to me and bothered me in this text. I found at least 3 instances of where they're used. Confidentiality has confidentiality, as appropriate, the faculty maintain confidentiality, objectivity, and impartiality in all evaluative activities, including students and colleagues. So then the next time it's used objectively when we refer to the colon, or I'm sorry, what was this? Page 2. So on page 2, section 2, there is a second or another, a bullet. That's what that's called, a bullet. Wow, it's the end of my day. So that time it refers, present the subject matter of the course as announced to the students and as approved by the faculty in the course outline of record as objectively as possible. And then there's a third bullet that says to strive to be objective in the professional judgment of colleagues. And then followed by this comment referring to our PD day that we just recently had. So their comment about the overall AP is that I understand the importance of striving for impartiality in evaluating students and colleagues, although an evaluation by its very nature requires us to make subjective judgments. In a larger sense, my issue with this wording has to do with the stands we've taken as a campus and community to be inclusive, equitable, affirming, anti-racist, and aware of our inevitable implicit bias. We're explicitly not objective or neutral on a big range of these important issues, so it seems strange that neutrality would be held up in a formal policy as something we're aiming for or even ethically obligated to pursue. Much of what we learned at PD Day keynote speaker stated that has to do with humanizing ourselves as instructors, sharing our own struggles and stories, and actively working to celebrate our students' diverse backgrounds and existing knowledge, etc. Wouldn't presenting subject matter as, quote, objectively as possible, end quote, be counter to this effort? We're encouraged to bring our whole selves to the teaching process and also to recognize our students whose whole identities when making all kinds of determinations. We're also asked to recognize that none of us are free from bias, i.e. objective.
Is there a recommendation?
Yes, so the recommendation would be to maybe rework the word objective and then also work out, how does she put this? To remove the request.
I don't like the word objective. So she wants the word objective removed. She's not happy with the word objective because she says that we're not being objective in other areas.
Okay.
And so therefore we need to.
So the recommendation on record is to change the word objective to,
Yes, but not just that, there's also a specific referring to neutrality, and neutrality being an issue, which I actually brought up at our last academic senate meeting also, that neutrality is actually an issue when it comes to, oh, am I out of time?
yes.
Okay.
So we need a motion to extend, Bevel and seconded by Anna. 5 minutes?
10 minutes?
5.
Maybe I don't have the stuff. Where in the document are all these words? Because I don't have pages. I have just a thing.
I just have the email comments. I'm gonna do my best to find that, but to be honest, I'm not too sure where these bullets.
And I would have to go search the document as well. I haven't searched the document. This came in late on Friday afternoon, so I have not had time to go back and to peruse it. I do feel that if this is something that the Senate wants to pursue, that I need to take this back to the committee because I think this is a substantive change, and I don't feel that I have the right to make those decisions for the committee.
And you emailed those to her, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so that was submitted on Friday, as you stated, late afternoon, but that's exactly when I got it. I sent it to you.
I have a question.
Okay, Carmen, yes?
My question is, what is and what was the deadline to submit it for all of us? Because I know at the last meeting that was not stated towards this document or any other things that were asked to be reviewed. Just wondering.
Yes, so to update our agenda, it's the Thursday before would be great. By 3 p.m. we try to honor that. I think I can speak for, that process. I know that's usually when we prefer to have the agenda in. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to, I move that we have the committee chair take this back to the committee and work through this.
A move to table, are there any?
So the original proposal was in Zoom, so they would have to agree to have it.
So Russ and Ling, you extended it. Do you want to move the table, or since there's so many? Agree to table, sorry. Since there's so many revisions that need to be done.
Point of order, that's not, I made a motion to table it and then, I don't know what happens now. You don't ask the people if.
Sorry, my fault. I'm getting confused. I was thinking if we just ask them to withdraw, then we don't need to vote to table. Are you amenable to that? Sorry, Melissa.
Yeah. Well, is our parliamentarian here that could clarify?
Not today.
Are they supposed to be here on Zoom, or when will they be here? Because they weren't here last time either.
Yes, they should be here our next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you. So we will table.
And we won't be meeting, we set up a meeting date with the committee today, and we're looking at mid-October before we can get together. So I'll bring it back when we have a chance to look at it.
Thank you.
So I just have a follow-up question.
Yes.
The follow-up meeting. So the information that Dale just read will be, presented. Are people still allowed to present more information before that meeting, or are we done with what is going to be?
You can email me with any comments or changes or thoughts that you have on it, and I will take it to the committee.
And when would you recommend people do that by? I just wanted everybody to be on the same page, so people.
I would say if you could do that in the next week or so, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Darlene Enda, our second read for AP 6330.
And I don't have anything to pull up here either. Do you guys have that on your screens?
It was sent out to
Okay. So this, that came for first read already, but this is for purchasing and inventory, and as you guys can see, the last time it was updated was 1994, so I thought it was probably time to update it. And the only changes that we made to that, as you can see, are some designations in number 4 under responsibility. Number 5, the Director of Purchasing works under the supervision of the Executive Director of Business Services, myself. Just some kind of verbiage changes in there. I would say as far as policies go, under number 6, item 2D, we discussed that anything over $5,000, make a good faith and get 3 quotes for anything that you're interested in purchasing, to get 3 quotes. We also updated item 6D, advance request for reimbursement, and that is for transactions that are under $250.
Can you go back to the last one you were saying, item 6?
Sure.
The 5,000, I don't see that in the document. Is it somewhere else maybe?
Oh, gee, I wonder what version you guys.
62D.
Sorry, 62D. I should have been clear. My apologies.
Thank you so much.
62D. So the next one is, so I don't screw it up again, is 6D, just 6D. So we updated the advance request for reimbursement, excuse me, as well as the cash purchase procedure that was also updated to a maximum of $100. And we updated under F2. You'll see that the capital equipment, we have a new tagging software, so we're tagging our capital equipment. And F4, consent items are not to be used as blanket consent items, so there's a procedure in there to address that as well. Number 9, under receiving, we updated those as well as how we receive those electronically and what goes to fiscal to ensure that it is input into Banner as received. And again, number 12, this is just a title update, as well as under inventory. 5A is also a title update. And that's it.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. I know you said it hadn't been updated since 1994.
Yes.
I'm curious about the totals. Were those also updated from the previous? So for instance, I know that there was something about $100, like that was the main one?
That was originally, I believe, that was originally at 200, and we dropped it to 100.
Okay, I just bring that up as somebody who does reimbursements from time to time, that with inflation going up, it creates a lot more once you pass that threshold of like work to do to get money back, that oftentimes our personal funds are kind of in limbo until we get that back. So I would just request maybe a recommendation to go back the other way to increase that amount if it's fiscally possible.
Well, and actually the advance request or reimbursement is $250. So the cash, let me say that 10 times. The cash purchase procedure is a maximum of $100. But your reimbursement, you can get reimbursed up to $250. But you can go to, for instance, you can go to the fiscal and get petty cash up to $100 if you wanted to purchase something with cash.
Yeah, and that is the scenario I'm also referring to as someone who helps organize an organization with a fund through them. And sometimes we're funding things and only being able to take out $100, it sometimes creates challenges. So I personally would like to see that number increase a little bit if it is possible, but I understand there's a lot behind that.
And I can bring that back to Jessie Wang, who's our Executive Director of Fiscal right now. I can bring that back to her and discuss with her.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other
We
questions?
need a motion to extend if there's any additional questions.
Okay, then we need a motion to approve if people think we're ready.
So if everybody's okay with it, we'll have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Somebody.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Melissa, for seconding.
Thank you very
Is there
much.
any objection? Okay.
I guess we have a question for this section, okay? Not just me, but, so the question is, you know how you're gonna,
I think the motion is to approve it. Did you have a question?
I have a question about the approving it. So my question about the approving it is, the conversation just happened where it's gonna be taken back, right, to leadership to see about increasing it from $100 to $200. If we approve it right now and then that recommendation is approved to $200, will that just automatically reflect and then will we get notified? Or are we saying the recommendation is not gonna be approved?
So are you asking, are we approving with an understanding that the recommendation will be asked?
Right, correct. And
Not knowing if it will be approved or not?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure. Thank you.
Any objections?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, approved by unanimous consent. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. New business. We have Crystal Koros here to share with us BP and AP 3300. Public records.
Public records. Any questions? Let's get right to it.
Cut to it.
Cut to the chase. So we're making no recommended changes to the BP. We're just doing some title updates in the AP and then adding a section at the end where we talk about the provisions of the penal code because we have sworn officers and we need that in our AP. And also we took out the part about rate charges or duplication based on the area because that really is not pertinent anymore. Any questions?
I'm not talking no more today.
You're not talking?
Okay, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, Margaret.
Well, we have a public comment about this.
Sure.
And I don't see where the public comment comes in because it did say if that in electronic format and the requester desires in that format, it's free. It's only if they have to, mail it in a different form. Because there was a public comment of somebody saying it was against the law.
Here it was a...
Yes,
Yeah,
it was read. It was read by but I don't get, because I'm reading it, it doesn't seem like what was said in the public comment goes with what's said here, because it did say it's free.
It could be different things. Because this is public records, so this is like if the outside public comes in and makes a request for records to the superintendent president. Does somebody want to help me so I can?
Yeah, Sheila's pulling it up.
But I don't see where, I see that it makes, I don't think.
You don't think there's a connection? Right. And to, public comment is public comment, doesn't have to, make sense.
I mean, but if he's right in the public comment, we want to be right. But if it isn't right, then that's fine.
She's pulling it up.
Okay, so basically, the issue in the public comment was that it's very concerning that the board is charging for electronic format public records request.
It doesn't say that, though.
But that's the
But
board
we don't.
thing. Which
Oh, the
board are
board?
we talking about?
I don't believe we do. If we can deliver it in electronic format and it already exists, we don't charge, we just deliver.
Right.
But if we have to produce something, there may be a fee for the labor involved.
Makes sense, okay. I was just going with the public comment and reading it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, there's a couple of questions. Catherine?
No, that was gonna be my question, but.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Melissa?
Now, after the public comment, I went and looked at the law, and I'm reading it right here. And it says that, and this is not for just whatever the public asks for the board, I mean, whatever they want and whatever that we do at the school. And it's not just duplication costs. So it says, shall make the records promptly available to any person upon payment of fees covering direct costs of duplication or a statutory fee if applicable. And I also looked on First Amendment Coalition, and it said that it is not allowed to charge fees for duplicating. So it's only the hard copy paper if it doesn't exist online or whatever, or as a PDF, or it's kind of hard to believe, but if they have to you have to make photocopies, that's what you can do. And I'm happy to send that to you, so you can take a look and make changes. I also have a question about how old this policy is.
It's on the website somewhere, when the last time we reviewed it.
I don't see it on the document that we got.
I didn't say it was on the document, I said it's on the website.
So how old is it?
I said you'd have to look, I don't remember.
Okay. So who's revising this document?
I used the league's template and I discussed it with my contact at the Community College League, and they recommended these changes. I attend workshops with them twice a year.
Also not a committee, just you?
Well, we could have a committee, but I'm not sure what a committee would do.
So
I talk to them, they tell me what's come down in the legal languages, they make recommendations, I put them in, and then I take them on the circuit. I'm on the circuit.
So what is
We have to
what process?
extend, apologies, we have to extend time if someone wants to motion to extend.
I motion to extend.
Thank you, Tracy, and seconded by Jose, thank you.
What
By
process?
how many minutes? I'm sorry, Melissa.
Max 5.
Max 5, thank you.
What process do you want us to, what process are you taking requests for changes or suggestion changes?
Taking them right here.
Right here, right
This
now?
is a first read, so I can take them and I can put them through and we can see what we can make work.
When you say put them through, what do you mean?
Well, I'll have to take them back and make sure that they're legal. I will talk to my contact at the Community College League and make sure that they are legal and that we are following Ed Code, and if they're okay with it and that's what we want, that's what we'll do.
Okay, so I have various changes to propose, and I also want to bring it back to my division, so.
First read.
Okay, so what's the best, what, for the body, what do we all want to do? I don't want to take up all the time, because apparently we just have 5 minutes increments, and then I think other people have things to say, so what do you recommend, VP?
Yeah, you take it back to your constituents. It's a first read, so like you mentioned, you take it back to your constituents, your group, and then when a second read happens, you bring back all the recommendations like Danielle demonstrated, brought her area recommendations, and go from there. But it's just the first read. So you would write down your recommendations, take it back to your group, write down their recommendations, bring it back when they do the second read. Any other questions?
All right then, thank you.
Wait, are you itching to say something?
A recommendation. Can I recommend that the fees be waived?
Well, I don't think we actually charge very often if we can do it, but if there are things, for example, that are going to be labor intensive, I don't think it's fair for the college to take on that expense or take up people's time, because it's going to take them away from other work that they're doing for the college. So I get it, but for the most part, we really don't charge all that often. If the information exists and we can digitally deliver it, great, we just send it out, there's no fee.
Yeah, but that sounds as if these requests are not often. So if there's only a few requests coming in every year, could those, and there's a fee attached to them getting a physical copy, can those fees be waived by the district?
Well, I think that would be up to determine what had to be done. And I can't really tell you how many we get every year because they go into the president's office and human resources. There could be a lot, I don't really know.
Is that information you could provide at our next meeting?
No, actually, it's not. I checked with the president and we're not required to give that information out.
Lyman?
Yeah, it does say at the very bottom, the Assistant Superintendent, Vice President, Business and Administrative Services may reduce or waive the fee if, in their judgment, significant financial hardship has been demonstrated by the requester.
So it is possible?
Yeah.
Currently?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So the individual who gave the comment for the public comment, he was asked to pay for the physical document?
No, he just made the comment. It didn't state that he was charged. Melissa, did you have a?
Yeah, what does it mean in their judgment? I mean, what is that based on to reduce the fee? What are they looking for? That one person in this school will decide whether or not to reduce or waive the fee. Reduce it to what? And waive it based on what?
Well, my assumption is it's going to be based on how much work is involved. If there's not very much work, so a lot of information actually exists on the website and we just have to point them to it. So, no fee.
This is about significant financial hardship demonstrated by the requester. So what will this one person at PCC be doing? I mean, like, what will that be based on? Whether or not to reduce or waive?
I'm assuming that this one person who's quite nice will have a conversation and find out, you know, what's the issue and why are they requesting it? And if there's a financial hardship, waive the fee if it's not going to cost the college too much money to do it. If it's going to cost the college thousands of dollars to produce the information, I don't think it's fair for the college to take on that burden. But if it's only going to cost the college $30 or $40, she might very well say, I'm going to waive the fee.
So because this is vague, could you please add the fee schedule here?
There is no fee schedule.
Or remove this completely?
No, I won't remove it completely because we're giving her the right to waive it and I don't think we want to do that. And there is no fee schedule because it varies on what they ask for.
So point of
Sorry,
information,
we're at time.
how do we give you feedback?
We're at time. We need to
I'm
extend.
still unclear.
We have 5 more minutes if we want another extension, if someone motions.
I'm a 5 minutes.
Thank you. And second, thank you, Tracy.
So I'm still confused about how we give feedback. Thank you.
You can feel free to give me feedback. Can I? Yes. Well, I can't call on you, but.
Yes.
So are we not providing feedback to you as we did the other candidates where we email it as well?
Sure, you can email it to me.
Yes. First read.
Well, I guess one of my recommendations is all of us read it and then our departments read over it too and provide the feedback. But I would recommend prior to our next meeting, just so we can all have access to it before that.
That's a good idea.
Just my recommendation.
Melissa, did you have a comment?
Yeah, how can we get that? So if we send you feedback, how will we all be able to see that feedback ahead of time? Will that be on as like a revision on the board docs?
Well, I think the best course of action is actually to send your feedback to Armia and she can gather it all together for me and then give it to me and then we can talk about it. Is that okay with you? I don't want to put work on you, Armia.
So what typically happens is once you send your feedback, I know last time people sent their feedback directly to Carol. I would prefer that, if you don't mind. If you have any revisions, send it to the holder of the AP or VP. And then they would send it back to us and then Judy would put it on the...
With strike-throughs and whatnot?
Yep, just like last time. Yep.
So you're sending it to me, just so we're clear? I'm okay with that, if that's okay with you guys. I'm fine with that.
Yes, Dr. Olivo.
I just want to also mention that the College Council is another area where all board policies and administrative procedures are discussed with every stakeholder group represented in the room. So it's another way for Classified Senate, Management Association, faculty, everyone can also give their final feedback to any changes that occur.
That's true, thank you. Yeah, this does get sent out to the other constituency groups as well.
You're on tour.
What's that?
You're on tour.
That's right, that's what I said, I'm doing the circuit here.
Are there any other questions? Melissa?
Yeah, I would recommend that included in this policy is the actual provision, oh, it's here, Government Code Section 6250. So it's a gigantic legal text, and perhaps at the bottom it could say, I don't know what penal code sections are, but at the bottom it could, I mean, there's a lot of extra here. It doesn't really, the talk about the fee doesn't really match up what the law is saying, so maybe there could be more reference to the law in this policy. I mean, it's nice that there's these most common exemptions because it's really long. All the exemptions are really long. But there could be a sentence at the bottom that says something like, for more exemptions, look at the policy because it's like completely, I mean the legal code, because it's completely covered in there. And also I'd like to know about the legal counsel. Why would we be telling the public that if they don't get their public document, that the legal counsel, who's the legal counsel that will be referred to? And will the public be able to talk to that legal counsel?
If they hire them.
So questions about whether a record is exempt from disclosure may be referred to legal counsel.
That's what we would do. So if we're unsure whether we can disclose something, we would discuss it with the college's legal counsel. So for example, if someone came in and wanted your personal information, Melissa, the college would probably say no, but they would check with legal counsel to make sure we were on good standing.
Well,
and that would be the same thing if they came in and requested certain student information. If it didn't fit within our guidelines of the student directory, we would double check to make sure that we were following the law.
In the past, I've requested public records, long time ago when we had a legal counsel here, and I got back gobbledygook, reference to Supreme Court statutes that make absolutely no sense. So I don't know.
Well, thank God she's gone. We have better legal counsel now.
I don't know if this legal counsel sentence is necessary.
Oh, it's always necessary because we always want to make sure, if we're unsure, that we talk to legal counsel.
And with that, remember, we are out of time for that item. With that, remember to send your comments, corrections, concerns directly to Crystal, and any of the other APs or VPs, send it to the owner of that, or the presenter of those AP VPs. And yeah, when she comes back for a second read, we'll go over those changes. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have Koi Dang that is going to, is Dan here too? No, just Koi. Hi, Koi. So now Koi is going to present on the student equity plan, the IDJ division, for a first read.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me back at the Senate. I was here last month talking a lot about student equity data. I know that this document is pretty dense and it has a lot of information, so why Dan and I came last session was we wanted to give you a little bit of preface so folks can understand a little bit more clearly. And just in relation to the last conversation, we had sent a link to the Academic Senate agenda, because this link is a document that you all can write on and give comments to and give all of your feedback in. So just in relation to some of the questions before, we know that this is a lengthy document that we don't have all session today to go through each page, but I invite you all to write as many comments as you want on that document link, and that's public, so you all will be able to see those comments and changes, and this is something that will be taken back to the committee to incorporate for the next time that we're here. So I think I'm going to open it up to questions, but just to give you all a little bit of context about the document, we really want it to be a tool and user-friendly. So the way it's framed or outlined is that it has a bit of an introduction, and then it's organized by 5 themes. And then each theme has different activities or priority areas within each of those themes, and it's also organized by metric, which we also have 5 matrices. So again, I know it's a little bit dense and a little bit clunky, but hopefully you'll be able to understand it and read through it and take pieces of it that you particularly care about in what section. So I will open it up for questions.
Yes, Bevan.
Yes, I have a general question I'd like to start the discussion with. If Pasadena City College is not hiring more African American faculty, and if they're not recruiting more African American students, how are we really serious about prioritizing racial equity?
I mean, I think that obviously that question applies overall to the college, but I think within the student equity plan, you'll see that we had spent a lot of intentionality in terms of being very, very specific and laser focused in terms of what activities we were going to do that were to support Black African American outreach and success. So as you look through the plan, you'll see, at least within our efforts, that we're trying to be as specific as possible. And as we move through the next 3 years, you'll see that outlined in how we set budget priorities within the plan. So all I can do is speak to this plan and to say that I hope if you read it, there's intentionality throughout that says that this is what we're doing specifically to support Black outreach, this is what we're doing specifically to support Black retention and transfer persistence. And so we hope that within each of these priority student success matrices, we have set percentages and outcomes that we can come back to Senate and say we've either completed them or we haven't. And so that's the accountability measure in our plan.
Yeah, I almost feel like we're at the point where we need like a specific outreach division. I'll give you an example. We have currently, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, one outreach recruiter, but it's a part-time job. It's a job that pays, I don't know, $16, $70 an hour. So how are we really expected to boost, especially the African diaspora, if we're not hiring a full-time person for outreach? And what happens, ultimately, the pressure gets back to UGMA. If the numbers are low, they say, well, maybe we're not doing enough. But are we truly dedicating the resources in terms of the finances? Are we really looking at a budget and see how much money is PCC dedicated, not just reducing the gaps, but ensuring that when students come to campus, especially students from the African diaspora, when they go into a classroom, that they are seeing faculty that look like them. And I just asked a question in a class at Mission College, because apparently I'm not good enough for PCC at the moment. And I asked them, how many African faculty have you had? And their response was, you're the first one, Professor. That's my concern.
Yeah, and I appreciate your concern. And just relation to the student equity plan and the student equity funding, we are in the process of right now hiring a Black Student Success Center counselor. We are also moving forward with a proposal to hire a coordinator. And there are conversations in the work to make that part-time position that you mentioned a full-time position. And so that would all be funded under this program.
Thank you.
Okay. Question, so on page.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying Anna and then.
And then me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question just about the kind of assumption about the normal kind of PCC student. It feels like we're imagining kind of someone who's here to get a degree, and that's not who we serve 100%.
So I guess I'm curious if there's kind of discussion or a way to incorporate the experience of students in our non-credit, students who are just here for enrichment, students who are here to take a class to like ease back in. It's not gonna take them 3 years, it might take them 5. Just kind of thinking about like the diversity of approaches and enrollment reasons and stuff like that. Because like when I look at it, I know that those are tied to the stupid funding junk, right? But I want us to kind of move beyond that in terms of how we think about our students and their experiences, I guess, because I don't want to be dictated by how the state gives us money to figure out how to best serve our students. So like if we could somehow like that a little bit, I don't know, that's just kind of what struck me there.
Thank you. And we've actually had other comments about non-credit, so we are going to be including some more language and thought around non-credit students.
And to her point, and to Bevel's point, these are recommendations you want to forward to CLAIM, and so that they can discuss that,
Yes.
that language.
Yeah, and feel free to make those comments right into that link of the plan. Yes.
So, Quay and I, along with Dan Quinn, are the chairs of the Student Success Committee. So just to directly answer your question, Anna, the equity plan is also tied to funding, right? That we're getting directly from the state, and these metrics are defined by the state. And however, in the Student Success Committee, we are not limiting our conversation to just what is funded through the equity plan. We're having these rich conversations about exactly what you're talking about, which is like who is our whole student population and how do we support them, you know, using our own resources and not necessarily just relying on the equity plan funding. And a lot of that conversation has centered around non-credit. We've had panels of students in our non-credit division tell us about their experiences. We've, you know, dedicated ourselves to building non-credit to credit pathways and to serving that student population better, just as an example of students who aren't necessarily mentioned by the chancellor's office in the plan. So don't think that this is it. You know what I mean? Because you read it, you're like, what about the returning students that's taking one class this semester, and we need to support them as much as we do the folks that are going after the 3-year transfer pathway or whatever. Yeah.
Right, and just to reiterate, this is just one plan, that it's not answering every single student success situation that we need, so.
But I was
it's
like,
just-
equity. Yeah.
I just had a question, page 6 on this chart. How you have these numbers. What are these numbers being compared to or based on? Because I see a lot of negative. Is that compared to last year, the year before?
This is 2022 data, so it's the most recent. And then actually what you'll see is if you looked at the very end in terms of our appendices, you'll see where that data comes from. So for here, for example, it talks about how where the gap is and how we get through it. So what that negative number is comparing the overall average of all of our students minus that group. So for example, if we have a transfer rate of an overall transfer rate of 30% for all of our students, and we have an equity gap of, let's say, 10% for African Americans, that means our African American Black students are transferring at 20% versus the 30% overall. So that's where you're getting those numbers. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you for putting this together. It looks like a lot of hard work. I was also, I have that concern about the metrics that you have, that are here on page, I think it's page 5, that it's different ones. I'd like to see not just transfer, not just degree, not just math and English, but other goals that students have at the school if they are achieving those, so the whole student, as you mentioned. Maybe you can answer this. When we talk about equity, and I noticed the term racial equity, is there another kind of equity, like socioeconomic equity?
Yeah, absolutely, there's gender equity, social economic equity, there's different focus points. Just in relation to answering your first question, so these 5 metrics are determined by the chancellor's office. So we have to report out and create an equity plan to that. So we are restricted by a template that they provide. So it wasn't something that us as a committee or anyone individually has decided those 5 metrics are what we need to report out on. This is something that's across all community colleges. In relation to racial equity, the reason why we have been focusing on racial equity is this is a continuation of our student equity plans from the last 3 years and the 3 years before that. So this isn't just a one-off. If you read our previous student equity plan and then a previous one before that, racial equity has been prioritized, and partly because of the data. So if you look at the data and when we say who's experiencing the most gaps and who's experiencing the biggest gaps, it is within our racial, our race ethnicity groups. And so that's how racial equity has been prioritized by data, through our data information.
So is there no socioeconomic data that can be used at all?
I think there is. I think the chancellor's office does have a low-income category, and so one of the things that we've been trying to do is do some intersectionality between social economic status and race. But even within those criteria, race has been the most salient, even when you intersect them with social economic status.
So then for the sake of, since there are different equities, as you mentioned, so this is predominantly or solely racial equity?
And when we say this, that's within the plan. If you go into our institutional research area, you'll be able to look at all different intersectionalities. So this plan in particular is talking about which priorities we're going to spend for the next 3 years. It doesn't mean that we're not going to work with low-income students or veterans or foster youth or other areas. This is just our primary focus for the next 3 years, as we've stated as a priority. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do anything else. It's just that this is what we're highlighting for this plan.
So then there could be another chapter on socioeconomic equity and gender equity.
Correct.
Okay.
See if anyone else wants to speak before that. Were there any other questions? Before I get back to Bevel. Thank you, Tracy.
Okay, I didn't know if you were here when I made a comment about defining what equity is. Maybe you could define for me what the college's definition of student equity, what it really means.
Well, without getting into like a long conversation about it, in relation to the student equity plan, we're talking about parity in outcomes. So parity in student success metrics. We want every student, regardless of their social identity, to have similar outcomes in student success metrics. So similar to the answer that I gave with Catherine, is that that's why we have equity data, is that we want to make sure whether you're a foster youth or you're a woman, you're African American, or you're Latino, that you're getting the same, that your student success outcomes are the same as everyone else's. And so for us in this relation, in this conversation, we're talking about parity in outcomes. So we want all of our student groups to have the same success outcomes.
That's great, but why do we use the word equity instead of equality then?
So we have ran out of time. We need to motion to extend time. How much time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Wait, I'm sorry. The mask, I can't tell who's talking. Thank you. So you move 5 minutes and who's second? 1 minute?
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So my question to you is, why don't we use the word equality as opposed to equity? Equity means making up for past discrimination with current discrimination. That means we're discriminating against some of our students instead of embracing all of our students. So why are we not using the word equality?
Well, yeah, we don't use the word equality because as you can see here, there's, if we were in an equal system, there would be zeros next to all these equity gap numbers. And so the reality is when we talk about equality, we're talking about, when we're talking about equity, we're talking about what students are going to need for us to get to equality. So right now, it is not an equal system, and when we talk about the student equity plan, we're talking about providing support and extra support for students to make sure that we're, decreasing those gaps. And so once we get to zero, then we can talk about equality. But until these numbers are at zero, we have to provide our Black African American students and our Latinx students more support and more resources and special attention, because right now they're not having an equal experience.
So that means that some students will fall through the cracks with that model. That you could have a socioeconomic white student from a very poor community, and they're not. You're saying they don't have any resources either because of the history, which I understand.
It's not a pie, right? Like we don't have it's not like a zero-sum situation. So for us is that we're just providing extra support, but that doesn't mean we don't support all students. So we're providing, our mission is to support all students and to provide them all to the finish line. In particular to the equity plan is what do we need to pay additional attention to get everyone to the finish line. So this isn't a zero-sum situation where we're saying we're going to give you $1 and take $1 away from someone else. That's not the situation.
But that's why I think we should be very careful in our wordage, because I agree with what you're saying. I think that's good to support all our students. But when you use the word equity, it basically means to take away something to give to somebody else.
That's the opposite of what I just said. That this isn't about that.
And I'm in agreement with you that I think it's great to serve all our students, and obviously there's nothing wrong with reaching out to underserved students. But the word equity, as I just defined 3 times today in public comment now.
Sheila had wanted to add.
Oh, thank you. Please do.
So Tracy, starting back in 2015, we worked with USC's Center for Urban Education to undergo training around equity. There were a number of extensive workshops conducted, including one specifically for the Academic Senate. And we came to a shared understanding of what the definition of equity was on our campus. And that does not include this idea of taking away resources from some in order to give them to others. It's about providing additional resources to students who continue to experience equity gaps as demonstrated by the data. We're so committed to it as a campus that we put the word equity-minded in the first sentence of our college mission. And it is that definition of equity that we're using, and also the definition of equity that we're using in the plan. So I think that the misunderstanding here is that we have different definitions of what equity means.
I think it was Bevel who was next with the amount of time we have left. We have 30 seconds.
Yes, so that's briefly 2 things. How much does curriculum play into the equity gaps? Because if you look at the history of education, it's always come from a Eurocentric mindset. The textbooks we use, there are very few faculty members who use African American authors, for example. I'm not saying that's the only textbook you should use, right? Just to give you an example.
We need a motion to extend for you to finish your thought. Thank you, Shannon. Motion, and then Tracy, 2 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. So,
how long? 5 minutes.
A lot of the theorists that we reference in our courses, they don't look like our students. Our students can't relate to them. So should we now turn our attention to curriculum? Should we try to develop courses that we could market to these demographics of students that they are genuinely interested in, that relate to them, so that they don't feel so far-fetched when they come into a classroom and you're discussing Aristotle, who's from, ancient Greek civilization, and you can't relate, how does that relate to me as a student in today's society? And the second thing is that the gaps have continued for the past, you would say, 3 or 4 years?
Decades, I would say, yeah.
Where is the funding from our campus to say, we have this problem, we need additional resources for this demographic? The money is there. Let's put the money where it needs to be so that we could try to reduce these gaps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
So since there are the different kinds of equity, and this is kind of the draft for the master student equity plan, right? I'd like to see something like the other equities defined here, and or if we're gonna, I'd like to have section, for example, section 6 or 7, gender equity coming soon, or socioeconomic coming soon, or something that reflects that there's not just one kind of equity, which is the one that, the school is prioritizing racial equity. And section 3 has a section prioritizing racial equity. So then maybe in there you could explain, here's why we're prioritizing racial equity as opposed to the other kinds of equities. So I'd like more reflection of those other equities in here as well, somewhere, just to say that they exist, because I think,
I think we can add the link to the institutional research page that talks about how we can do a deeper dive in relation to the other factors, and so we can add a little, we can just put that in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Rose?
I do just want to point out, as someone who's been on the Student Success Committee since its inception and has looked at 3 rounds of data about our students, that racial equity is where we see the most significant equity gaps on our campus. So we definitely do, among other student populations that we are required to look at for the plan. Sometimes our veterans will be experiencing an equity gap in one metric. Definitely our LGBTQ students, who we recently started collecting data on through the Chancellor's Office, are experiencing equity gaps. But when you isolate for socioeconomic status, we do not see the same equity gaps. Perhaps when we look at it intersectionally, along with race and some of the other definitions we do, but just isolating for SES, that has not been something that we have noticed in any of the rounds of the equity plans we have written over the last many years.
And just to note, I'll get you in one second. I just wanted to go off of what she was saying. Hanan, am I saying it right? Okay. The community college system has the vision for success, right? They say that racial equity is the priority. So that's even above PCC. So to answer some of the questions, again, that is in no means the only equity gap, but that's the one they're prioritizing at the community college system level. So, Hanan?
Just a quick question. Under inquiry and action for each action plan, I see that there's like tailored focus groups, surveys, and panels. Would that be executed the way that you had, I believe it was last week, I attended like a panel for the student equity plan. Would that be executed that way?
I mean, multiple ways. That's one of many ways. Yeah. So we're working with different constituents. AS. We're working with AKIPO. We're working with the Student Success Committee. We're working with different faculty. So this would be coming at different angles, but focusing on creating more spaces for students to share their input and to share their experience is the priority area. So that's one example that happened last week is what's in the plan.
With that, that's time for us. We've had our 2 extensions. Remember, if you have anything that you would like to add or discuss, send it directly to Faye. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda we have approved consent items. We have. So may I have a motion to approve them as a block? Yes, so can I move to have a motion to approve the committee appointments as a block? Item J1, I have Margaret Margie Bowe. Yes. I got to get new glasses. And is there a second? Thank you, Talene. You Jose to that one. Thank you. So are there any objections? Okay, then it is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you so much. Item number 2, under consent items, we have our hiring committee for the Assistant Dean of Northwest Campus. We received requests to be on the committee, and Early Douglas and Brian Pangan requested to be on these committees. We have to push forward 2 people. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay, I got Carmen. No, Jeff was first, and you want a second? Carmen, thank you so much. Any objections? Okay, and it is approved by unanimous consent. Do we have any proposed future agenda items? Yes.
This might not be, well, at the last meeting, we started talking about goals, academics, and is that going to be at the next meeting? Okay. And if we emailed goals to you, they'll be added to the list for us to discuss and vote on?
Yes, so it was moved to our upcoming meeting because Dr. Lopez was not back from her trip, and we want to have a fuller discussion. So we will put that on the future agenda. Yes.
We talked about ensuring that the hiring was under 10+1. Is that something that will be confirmed in our next meeting as well?
As a goal.
As a goal?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else for any future agenda items? Oh, yes, Melissa.
That's okay. I'll bring it up later.
Any announcements? Yes, I heard a voice.
Can I have an agenda item for next time?
Proposed agenda item, yes.
Adjunct Academic Senate adjunct senator representation.
Okay, anything else? Thank you. No announcements? Sure.
I'd like to get more information about motions, or just so, because a lot of people are new, gonna get trained. If there's anything in our budget that could get us copies of the Roberts Rules, even the guidebook for dummies or whatever, because that
So
way
some
we
type of
have
training.
some kind of training, so we understand.
Thank you. Any announcements?
Just a quick announcement, on the 4th Thursday of the month is our Thirsty Thursdays, which is our student resource fair out by the Mirror Pools from 11 to 4 p.m. this Thursday. They provide a free meal to students, and I believe this month is Panera. Yes?
We actually are having Tiffany's Catering.
Oh,
Yeah, so it'll be great.
okay, so send your students out this Thursday between 11 and 4 to the Mirror Pools, and there will be a meal for them too, as well as resources.
One last announcement I had, waiting my turn. There will be a Black Student Success Mixer on October 4th. You do not have to be Black to attend. If you would like to come and interact with Black students, you're free to come October 4th, and the Krevling 12 to 1. Any other announcements? Meeting adjourned. Great meeting. Thank you. 4:53.